So far we've seen a little about actions in Tilbury. In this video we'll go a little deeper to better understand their importance for your creations. Through actions, we define the behavior of our productions. They can happen at different times, such as at the beginning of the movie, which we saw earlier, but there are several other places where they can be added. One of them is at the beginning of each of our scenes. This can be done by accessing the left menu Scene, clicking on Properties and going to the tab Start Actions. Still in the Scene Properties window, in the tab Keyframes, we can indicate actions that happen at the end of each of the scene's keyframes. But actions can also be triggered by user interactions. The simplest way to do this is when an instance is clicked/touched. To do this, select an instance in your scene and in the right menu, in the Actions tab, click the Trigger Actions button. The Actions right menu also allows you to define actions that occur when the mouse cursor passes over an instance when the content is displayed on a computer. Finally, it is also possible to define actions that are triggered according to the playback time of a media, which is very useful for adjusting reactions to the content of a video, for example. Finally, in the Movie Properties window, we can use the Input tab to assign actions in response to common events such as a key being pressed on the keyboard, a swipe on a touchscreen, or a right-click on a mouse. In these cases, actions are defined from groups of actions that we call action snippets. Action snippets are groups of actions that can be reused in a movie, optimizing the creation of interactions. We give a name to each of these groups that is used as a reference later to execute them. They can be defined in the Action Snippets tab of the Movie Properties window. If you want to learn more about all the action options in Tilbury, check out the Tilbury Scripting Actions manual. The link is available in the description of this video. Let's start adding actions by creating a snippet to change the keyframe in our scene, which will allow us to exit the home screen to the content about Mercury. Open the snippet editor by accessing Movie in the left menu, clicking on Properties, and going to the Action Snippets tab. There are two ways to specify your actions. One is to write the code for them directly. The other, the default, is simpler. Use the block editor. This is the way we will use in this video. To access the content about Mercury, we must advance our scene to keyframe number 2. To create this action, click on the plus button and in the Movie and Scene Handling group, look for Load a Keyframe. This action asks for a parameter, the keyframe number. Enter 2 and click on Set Action Block. Let's save our snippet. To do this, name it Mercury, click Add Snippet, and then click Save Action Snippets. Close the Movie Properties window after that. Now, access Contraptions in the left menu and click on Interfaces. Let's open and edit Black Sun once again. Click on it and then on Load Interface. Look for the Mercury button graphic. In its properties, type the name of our snippet in Element Click Action. Then click Set Element and add /Update Interface. Finally, click Save Current Interfaces Settings to save the changes. Now, let's test our scene one more time. Notice that when the Mercury button is clicked, the second keyframe is loaded, but notice that the Black Sun menu is still visible. Let's go back to the Action Snippets tab of the Movie Properties window. Select the Mercury item and click Load Action Text to load the actions back into the editor. Let's add a second action to this snippet from the Contraptions group. Look for Hide All Interfaces. This action doesn't require any parameters, so just click Set Action Block. Back in the Movie Properties window, confirm that the snippet name is still Mercury and click Add Snippet. After that, you can click Save Action Snippets and close the window. Now let's test the scene again. Notice that when we access the information about Mercury, the Black Sun interface disappears as we indicated in our snippet. How about creating a snippet to return to the home screen? Let's call it Home. In it, in addition to opening the first keyframe, we want the interface to reappear. Access the second keyframe of the scene and click on the instance of the button with the arrow pointing to the left. In the Actions tab of the right menu, click on Trigger Actions to define the Click Tap action. Here, instead of just indicating the name of the snippet as happened in the interface, we have the complete action editing interface, but we can still reuse what we have already created. Add an action and, in the System Actions group, choose Run a Movie Action Snippet. Indicate the name Home and click on Set Action Block. Back in the Actions window, click on OK. Now let's go back to the first keyframe and test our scene once more. Notice that we can now switch between the two and that the Black Sun interface behaves accordingly. In this video, we got an introduction to using actions to navigate our creation. We'll come back to this later, but in the next video we'll discuss a bit about animation.